makers. Today I am going to be making some cards with the Whimsy Stamps quick card fronts. This set is the Sympathy Bouquet 2. There's a Sympathy Bouquet 1 that has more pinks and purples, and this has some light blues and some kind of light greens tones to it. They both have some beautiful florals, and the way quick card fronts work are that for $5.99 you get a set of 8 card fronts that are basically ready for you to just put on a card. You really don't have to do anything to it. You can see that it has crackling, kind of worn away in some areas. It has a beautiful image and focal point, even has a little bit of text over it. Here's another one. The 8 card fronts are all unique and different. You don't have any repeats within them. And each set usually has 4 of one color tone and 4 of another color tone. So you can see with this one, you have 4 that kind of have a light bluish green background. And then you have some with a light blue with a little bit of a pink undertone to it. And again, just beautiful vintage backgrounds ready for you to, just put right on a card. You can die cut these, you could stamp on them, whatever you'd like. And then you get 2 sets of sentiments. They're the same sentiment, but you get it in 2 different coordinating colors so that you can just cut the sentiment strips, either with a sentiment strip die or just with your scissors or your cutter, and then pop those onto the card, put it on a card base, and you are ready to go. You can also do as much to it as you want to, add details, bling, whatever it is that you want to add. Now, these are Sympathy, but as you can see from the beautiful images, if you didn't use the Sympathy sentiments and you chose some things for birthdays or hello friend or an invitation to tea or anything like that, just a thinking of you card, how are you today? Just wanted to say hi. Any of these are just absolutely gorgeous to send to, to friends, and they don't have to be Sympathy, but they just make such a beautiful quick card. So I'm going to be using these today, and sadly I do need some Sympathy cards, so I will be using these as Sympathy cards as they were designed. And then what I'm going to use with this will be the WONKY stitched rectangle dies. And so with these, you can see that they have an outer blade that's going to cut the A2 down just slightly. And then I'll be able to put a mat around it that will have this just the smallest reveal around there. And then to save me time, this is already stitched. I will not have to get out my machine to do any hand stitching on that. So that will make it even quicker for me. So I won't have to stitch around all of them. And then also I thought, I might want to add a little bit more texture before I cut it. So I pulled this stamp set that was released last year, 2023, for the Halloween season. And this is called Exquisite Lace Rubber Cling Stamp. And so it has 3 different lace options to it. And I'm thinking this one's a little bit big, so I'm thinking I'll probably stick to these 2. I thought they would add some nice detail, but I don't want it to be too much of a focal point. So I decided I think I'm going to stamp them in clear embossing ink and emboss them with some distress embossing glaze. So I pulled weathered wood, lost shadow, and antique linen, and we'll just see how they look on these. Like I said, I'm using this because distress embossing glaze, it is translucent, so you can kind of see whatever's underneath it. You can see through it, and it just kind of gives it like a little bit of a colored texture to whatever you stamp on there. So I think that might be just a nice little addition to the cards before I die cut them. And then for my mats on the card base that I will attach to the card base, this set of craft stock is current from Idea-ology, and it's the metallic colors pack, and they do have a rose gold, so that is in there, and you can use that. You get 2 pieces of it, and so you would get 4 card backs from each piece. And then they don't have the kind of more brass color, but they did have this green, and I thought that went really well with, you know, some of the green, so that might work. Also, if you use this, the blue goes really well on that rose gold, like I said earlier. And then there's even this kind of blue that I thought looked really interesting with the kind of bluish green. It doesn't go quite as well with these. These are a little too purpley blue for this, but I thought that the green ones went well on it. So those are some colors in the metallic colors craft stock stack that is current from Tim Holtz Idea-ology, if you want just a little bit of shine, you know, kind of to add to your card. All right, so those are the things that I'm going to be using. And again, you know me, I always say I'm going to keep it simple, and then something always happens. But I really do want to keep these simple because I do want to get cards out to my friends to let them know I'm thinking of them in their time of loss. So let's go ahead and get started making our quick card fronts by Whimsy Stamps. All my stamping done, so I stamped in Distress Embossing ink, and I ended up just using the Lost Shadow and the Antique Linen embossing glazes. So here's what I started off with. I started with this one, the medium lace on the Exquisite lace stamps, and I embossed it in antique linen on this one, and I decided I wasn't sure that I liked the antique linen on the light blue, so I switched to Lost Shadow, still using the medium lace. And so you can see that it just adds the tiniest bit of detail. It's not a whole lot of detail, it's just a little bit, and I really like it. It's not too shiny, just adds just a little bit of interest. Now this one in the middle, there wasn't anything going across, so I actually used the wide lace for that one. And then for the kind of greenish blue color, I went across the bottom with medium on this one, but the rest of them I used the very delicate Exquisite lace, and you can just barely see it across the bottom of this one, but in person you can see and you can feel that little bit of raised detail. And on this one I did it across the top, and again just a delicate little bit of detail. And this one didn't have a whole lot on it, so I went ahead and did it across the top and the bottom just to add interest in both areas. So now I'm going to be cutting out each of them. I will be cutting with the WONKY stitch die to add the stitching and also to make them a little bit smaller. So I'm going to go ahead and cut these off camera because you don't need to watch me die cut. I know you know how to do that. And then I will also use my cutter to just cut these into A2 card bases for each of these so that I'm ready to go with that. And I will cut these into strips so that when we come back, it will really just be all about assembly. These are just about ready to put together, but I wanted to show you a couple of little details before I get them adhered. So I went ahead and put the blue behind some of the bluish green card fronts, and the green behind some of them. And then with the light blue, I went ahead and went with the pink gold, the rose gold. So for this one, I felt like this one could be for, you know, maybe a masculine sympathy card or something like that. And so I put it on the green, and I wanted you to see that I went around the metallic. So I matted the little sentiment also with the green metallic. And I don't know if you can see that I went around it with some archival ink and a blending tool. So let me show you this and see if you can see the difference. So you can kind of see that the outside edge is a little bit darker. It's got that ground espresso around it. And then I dried it. You want to be sure that you dry it so that it won't come off. So it's not rubbing off. And then I went around the edges of my card fronts with just walnut stain distress ink and a blending tool, and also the sentiments with walnut stain, so that it gave it a little bit more of a vintage feel. And then I can attach these something like that. Okay, so here's the green. I did the same with the blue, where I went around it, and I think it really blends so much better with this. And then I also went around the rose gold, so it did turn it a little bit more brown, but I think it's still pulls in the colors of the card well. And there we go. Something like that. All of the cards are finished, all 8, and I have to say that this really was a very quick way to make 8 sympathy cards, so that I have them to send to some people right now, but I have several left over when I will maybe unfortunately need them in the future. So I have a good set of 8 cards that I think are really just beautiful. So let's go over some details now that they're finished, and look at each one individually very quickly, and then we'll wrap up. So this whole set over here was the light blue backgrounds, and you know, I used that pink, the rose gold metallic, and I went around it in the ground espresso archival ink just to age it a little bit. So also stamped on 3 of these with the Lost Shadow Distress Embossing Glaze, and so it just added that little bit of lace there from the Exquisite lace rubber cling stamps. And then for this one, I trimmed the sentiment down and just put it in the corner here so that the rose spray and the stamping could show. I think that wonky stitched rectangle die was just perfect, and I thought it was going to leave, you know, kind of an uneven mat around it, but I shouldn't have questioned Whimsy. They know exactly what they're doing. They've been doing this for a long time and doing it very well. So anyway, it fits perfectly within an A2 card with just that perfect reveal all the way around. So couldn't have worked out better, and I didn't have to stitch, so that saved me time as well, because just putting it through the die cut did 2 things. It gave me the reveal for the mat for the card front, and it gave me the little stitched detail all along there. So 2 things in one with that die, so that was great. This one I stamped with the antique linen, or I stamped and then I used the antique linen embossing glaze on this one, so it's a little bit more gold than the one that is Lost Shadow and the grays. So this one says, "May you remember all the love." This one I stamped at the top and the bottom in Lost Shadow, and it says, "Our thoughts and prayers are with you." And this one just had a little bit of detail at the top and bottom of the card front. And then there wasn't really anything in the center except the chippy paint, that wonderful chippy paint. So I used that large lace stamp across the middle, and then I decided that's where I was going to put my sentiment strip. So heartfelt condolences for your loss on this one. And then over here, this was the more greenish blue set. So I used, on two of them, I used that blue, the light blue metallic from the current Idea-ology metallic craft stock, and I aged it again with the Ground Espresso archival ink and a blending tool. And so this one I got on crooked, and I just have it on with tape, so I'm gonna pop that off and fix it after I finish this video. So I just noticed that, but it's not a big deal. I'll get that fixed. So the sentiment says, may you remember all the love. And on this one, I just have that very delicate lace detail at the top, stamped and then embossed in the antique linen distress embossing glaze. This is the other one with the blue, and our sentiment is heartfelt condolences for your loss. And it's difficult to see it unless you're in person, but our stamping detail is down here at the bottom. And then the last two, I used the green metallic from the Idea-ology metallic craft stock, again aged in Ground Espresso archival ink. Our thoughts and prayers are with you, and our stamping on this one, just like the last one, is down at the bottom. So it just adds a little bit of texture when you see it up close. And last but not least, this one has our detailed stamping at the top and at the bottom here, and it says with deepest sorrow. So I think that they are just beautiful. I love how they turned out and how quick they really were once I started putting them together and I decided what I want to do. That's usually what takes the longest, isn't it? Just kind of deciding what we want to do and not trying to do too much. And that's the beauty of these quick card fronts. You really don't have to do much at all. They are ready to go and just beautiful as they are. So I want to thank you so much for watching, and if you have any questions about the quick card fronts, go ahead and drop the question in the comments below for this video. I'll be glad to answer them to the best of my ability. And if you would like any of these products, I also have links to the products in the description of this video, and those are my affiliate links. I would really appreciate it if you would use those. That helps me out so much. And thank you all very much for watching. I appreciate it. And I want to wish you a very creative day.